So I am working with a small project as we demonstrate how to do the plaid stitch in joined rows. This little project is going to be a hat. To demonstrate how to work in joined rows, I will begin with the first row of the plaid alternating between my mid color, this is my mid color, and my dark color. Changing colors the proper way and making sure that I keep my yarn untangled, which you can see those techniques in the previous module. So the way to have it looking nice at the join, you have your total stitch count needs to be in multiples of 6 minus 1. And the reason for this is because when you work the chain 2 in the beginning, the chain 2 looks like a stitch, especially when you're using blocks of color. It's very distracting to see that extra chain 2. So we work the chain 2 because it fills in the space. Here, I'm going to start with gray. It fills in the space, so I don't want to lose that, the look of filling in the space, but I can't count it as a stitch either, because then if I count it as a stitch, it doesn't quite look enough like a stitch to be on its own and working the double crochet into the next stitch. So the solution I came up with was to chain 1, work the double crochet in the same stitch, counting this as 1 stitch, and then double crochet into the next stitch. So that makes the first block only containing 2 stitches that we're counting. However, the chain 2 will make it look like it has 3 stitches. So that is the explanation as to why when we're working plaid stitch in the round, like in a joined rows, that we do multiples of 6 minus 1, because you're compensating for not counting the chain, but having the chain there looking like it's a stitch. So you chain 1, you work a double crochet in the next stitch, half a double crochet in the following stitch, and then you join either your either your dark or your light. And working the plaid stitch in joined rows is what I would suggest is the best way to start learning how to do it. You can drop all your yarns. You don't need to carry both yarns like you do sometimes when you're turning. And it's a little more forgiving. So I'm going to work the plaid stitch across, which is 3 double crochet. And then as you finish that last one, so you can see I'm pulling the black forward and my mid is going in the back. I'm going to finish with that last loop to finish the block. So I'm alternating colors all the way around. I'm alternating between my mid and my dark. Remember, your mids are diagonal and your darks are diagonal. So with each row, mid will be used in every row. You use about twice as much of your mid color as you do of your other colors, because you're using the mid in every row, but you're only using your dark or light every other row. So on this first row, and you could have chose to use your light color as well, it doesn't matter, just as long as you're alternating between your mid and one of your second colors. So I've alternated my dark and my mid all the way around. And then when you work that join, you want to make sure that you're joining into the top of the double crochet. So the chain is not counting. It's a little confusing. The chain does not count as a stitch, but it looks like it counts. And so that's why we have to do multiples of 6 minus 1, because if we put another one in there, it would look like there were 4 stitches, but the chain looks like 1. Doesn't count, but it looks like 1, and then these are your 2 real stitches. So for the next row, we're going to give yourself a more seamless look. We're going to back up a little bit. You want to finish the last stitch with the color that you're going to be working on the next row. So because the mids go diagonal, and the light and the dark go diagonal, on top of the mid is going to be my light color. So I'm going to finish that last stitch with my light and then join. And then the second row of the plaid stitch, you need 2 rows. You need the first row with the mid and the dark, and the second row with the mid and the light. Again, you could have done light here if you would have preferred. So I'm going to do the same thing I did before. And you're going to drop that black. The beauty of doing it in a joined rows is that the black, or whichever yarn you're not using currently, you can simply drop down. You don't bother with it until you come back around and need it again. So I'm chaining. I worked a double crochet in the same stitch, double crochet into the next stitch. So that first plaid stitch, the plaid block, only has 2 stitches in it, but it looks like there's 3. And then you're going to continue around. You're going to continue around working 1 double crochet in each stitch around, alternating between your light and your mid. Okay, so we're finishing that last block of plaid, the last color block. And because I'm going to be working the mid in the next block up, I'm just going to finish that last row with the mid. And then again, you're going to join it with the double crochet. You're going to join it into the double crochet, not the chain, because the chain doesn't count. It only counts in how it visually looks. So that is the plaid stitch done in the round. You're going to make sure that you begin with 1 less stitch in that block, and you're going to join with the double crochet, and you're going to alternate between your dark and your mid, or excuse me, your dark and your light, working the mid every row. So that's the plaid stitch in the round in joined rows. So be sure to watch our next lesson. We're going to talk about turning rows and working flat squares.